That's pretty cynical on the Iranian side, isn't it, since they have been blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Both sides have been accusing each other of breaking the ceasefire. The question really now here in Pakistan is, are they going to get beyond these accusations and actually start to be able to do some deals?
Yeah, NBC's Keir Simmons in Pakistan. Keir, thank you.
All right, 4:45.
$4:45?
Yeah.
And it's 4:45 right now. All right.
There you go.
What the heck is this? Hey, what's up, everybody? Hello, hi, how's it going? Offline YouTube, offline TikTok, online Twitch. What? Hey, how's it going? Hi. How are you on this wonderful Tuesday? We do need some hold music. Like what? What are we cleared to play? We need some pump-up music. Like Sandstorm, Darude. No, that would be too intense. And also kind of geopolitically too on point. Maybe something lo-fi to calm us down before the show. All right, there's the control room out there in New York. 30 Rock in the house. Then this right here, down here, that's the studio here. That huge shadow in the background, that is the one and only Big Mike. And the teeny tiny one right next to him, that's Ryan, just making fun of my lack of shoes once again. Ryan is got the best taste in shoes, and if I would have listened to him, maybe I wouldn't have broken my foot. Anyway, how's everybody doing today? Let's see. Okay, we got YouTube now coming online. We got TikTok starting to fire up. Hopefully the TikTok stuff is working out. I don't know what we need to do to get like whitelisted over there. We keep getting some weird little flags, and it's like, guys, we're just trying to give you the news for free every single day right here, and you don't even have to pay for it. So like, help us help you, and yet we keep getting dinged. What is going on? Anyway, NZ Sailor, hurry up, I'm busy. What are you busy with? What kind of sailing are you doing? SML, music would be great. Stefan Glendenning, are you talking to us? We are definitely not doing that. Carlos, congratulations. Congratulations to you, man. 200K nuclear sector personnel in New Mexico. No, probably closer to like 30K, but over the course of decades, yeah. And if you count, all the way back to the 50s and 60s, definitely, yeah. June, I look forward to seeing your name every single day. Emanuela Buzzin. Nice. Hello. Hi, Elizabeth in Texas. Update on Lisa? Pfft. What about my foot? Lisa is doing great. She is on the road to recovery, and I can't wait to have her back. When she comes back, we're going to put her right up at the top. But that is our mission control, NASA control right now. Houston, Maria, Houston, Texas. Houston, we have no problems today. NZ Sailor, are you sailing in NZ? Because that would be amazing. And also, how are you watching? Teletexas history. Interesting. Tuesday afternoon, that's a great one. Tucson, Arizona, Jorge, nice to see you. Tucson's great. My wife's from Arizona. Update on my, I thought you said update on my mug. Update on my leg, it's not great. Something was going on. I wore pants today. I don't know if you can see from this, like omniscient shot that we have here. These are pants. But when I was wearing my boot, it was like cutting off my circulation really bad in this weird little vein. So I had to take my boot off, So don't tell people, but this is a first. I've done the show with my shoes every single day of my life, and now emergency, situation with the foot. So I feel bad for these guys having to smell this studio.
Good thing it's air conditioned.
Yeah, good thing it's air conditioned. On high. Oh, hi over on Twitch saying, good show, everyone, break a leg. Just not, I already did. And it didn't help. Classic jazz flip, like some Kenny G. Yeah, that would definitely calm people down. That's the point. Like this is maybe the last news show that you're going to see today. So we want to make sure that we're easing you out. Maybe the world's not going to end. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but there's a chance that maybe we'll figure things out. I don't know. I'm a dad of very young kids, so I'm trying to be as optimistic as humanly possible about this world, even though it is very messy and very confusing. So that is the guiding principle of this show. Billy, I beg to differ, but to each their own. Blood to bleed, yes, too soon. Maria, I don't know. I mean, my wife likes me sometimes. Let's see. Elizabeth, yes, they're the worst. Leg boots are not fun, except for, I will say, the leg boot that I have, it has a little pump on it, like an air pump. So it reminds me of back in the day when you would pump them up until you pumped them up one too many times and they exploded, and then your mom is like, those were the only expensive shoes I'm ever gonna buy you, ever. And then you have to go back to wearing East-sided, That's a real story. Charlotte doesn't have the, well, Flip, that is your opinion, and everybody in this chat is entitled to their opinion, as long as we keep things cordial and keep things nice, and we try to remember that we're all human beings on this earth. We would like to cultivate some elevated discourse. That's the plan. Hunter Burke, haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? Let's see here. Let's see, like 20 commercials? Wait, what are you talking about? Sandra, what are you watching? Are you watching us? Sandra, let me pitch you on something real fast. Have you ever watched a news show in which during the commercial break, you can just chat about the news that you were just watching with the people that are putting it on? That is what we would like to offer you here. So I understand that commercials sometimes are sloggy to watch. But, maybe while you're watching the commercials on the big TV, you could just hang out here with us. It's great. What do you think? Sandra? Sandra, are you still there? Guys, I think she left. I think she's done with us. Susan, thanks. I'm looking forward to it with you too. Flip, I will never let loose. I'm trying to be an optimist here. And SML, yes, forgot to remember, no spamming, yes. That is a very big rule. Hi, Guiding Kornacki on one monitor, Rocket League on another, yeah! There we go. That's a lot going into your brain. I mean, wow, you must have a lot of bandwidth. Yes, I was watching your channel. Are you watching, okay, Sandra, tell us everything. You're our focus group here. Are you watching on YouTube, the channel, or are you watching on NBC News Now? And if you're watching on NBC News Now, are you watching on like a Samsung, or watching on like Roku, or wait, first of all, how is everybody watching this? I know some people are watching on YouTube, some people are watching on Twitch, some people are watching on TikTok, but are you also watching on the big TV, how we intended the show to be seen, this 16:9? Because I'm always interested in knowing how you guys see it. Jay Place, wow. I think my bosses would love to hear that. We need more commercials so we can chat more. Patrick, must be so nice. That is delicious. Let's see. Yeah, that's the other network. That's not us. The Price is Wrong. Let's see, TikTok. All right, cool. I don't know about that, but thanks, Jesse. Big TV YouTube. Nice, Reed. YouTube app on Fire TV. Oh, interesting. YouTube. Wait, so you guys, hold on. So you guys are watching the whole comment section on a big TV on the YouTube app? That's wild. That's interesting. Elizabeth is watching both. Nice. So Elizabeth, you watch the old school way and then you watch the new school way right here? That is cool. NBC Live on iPhone? 101 Sherlock. All right. iPhone represent. Flip. Well, on this Tuesday, we will have an update on that. Read. Yep. SML. Wow. All right, cool. That's pretty fascinating. I didn't think about somebody using the YouTube app on a smart TV. YouTube TV is one thing, but the YouTube app is another. Then you get to see the comments, and then are you typing on like a keyboard? Oh, I know, and I actually think it looks clean like that. I do like it like that, and I wish there was a way. We're working on some stuff. But there's a lot of things that I wish we could incorporate here, so we're working on it. What else are you guys watching? Elizabeth, I'm on the NBC Live on the iPhone. Cool. Got it. And then, all right, here's another question. This is not the best camera because it is a iPad. So when we go to commercial break, what do you guys rather see? Do you guys rather see like this kind of janky iPad camera so we can chat? Or do you want to see this where you have the thing and then, I don't know if we have commercials here because it's complicated. But would you rather see this or would you rather see this? Hey Tina, how's it going? Watching in kids' playroom and have the comments up on my phone. Nice. Ah, that is a dual screen situation. SML, yes, no spamming. That is the rule of the stream. Or a timeout. iPad, nice. It's pretty good though. No, Tina, we're working on it. We've got requests out to all of the above. Becerra, Steyer, I mean, even in the mayor's race, Bass, Rahman. I think we're gonna do the top 4 if we can. So tell them to come by. Hi. You want to know a secret? And Tina, you should check because I really do trust your eye here. Twitch, for some reason, seems like a cleaner shot. And then YouTube seems a little fuzzier. And then TikTok is, tiny. TikTok is on my phone. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to. Boom. Yeah, and TikTok seems a little bit washed out for some reason. So the colors look kind of odd. Where's George? Ooh, how does that feel? Where's George? We got Big Mike.
Big Mike in the house.
Big Mike's here. It's either George or Big Mike. They're the best at what they do here. Let's see. Okay, we got 1 minute. 1 minute to go. So yeah, I did make a TikTok SML because I knew you were gonna ask. So I made a TikTok. Not because I wanted to, but because of, algorithm stuff. So, all right, let me just get this up to date here. 1 minute. We're starting here. All right, I gotta read this real fast here. Okay, 40 seconds, we're gonna start the show. We're starting with what's happening in Iran. And what is happening in Iran is the ceasefire has been extended. So we saw those strong words yesterday from the president. He said, no more Mr. Nice Guy. We have this plan in front of them. If they don't accept, maybe power grid, maybe bridges, those kind of things. Well, today, the ceasefire has been extended. The deadline for the ceasefire was Wednesday, and now it is, we don't know. But it looks like I don't know, this pause of fighting continues, even though there's a situation with the ship out in the Indian Ocean. Let's chat about it. Good evening, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight, Under the Wire, just as that temporary truce between the United States and Iran was set to expire, and right after U.S. soldiers choppered down onto the deck of another tanker tonight, the president says he is extending the ceasefire. President Trump, writing on Truth Social hours ago, quote, "I have directed our military to continue the blockade and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other." So, does that mean that there was some sort of progress? Did Iran make some sort of concession, or did the president just change his mind? It is unclear at this point, but here is what he told CNBC right before extending that deadline.
To be clear, you're saying that you need at least the prospects for a signed deal today and tomorrow, or else you would resume bombing Iran.
Well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. But we're ready to go. I mean, the military is raring to go. I want to make a good deal. I'm not going to be rushed. I have all the time in the world. I want to make not a good deal. I want to make a great deal.
Now, all of it coming as the U.S. military continues what looks like this full-court press on sanctioned ships. Yesterday, the U.S. seized an Iranian cargo vessel near the Strait of Hormuz, and now there's this video. Here it is. This is another interception. The Pentagon says the U.S. boarded this tanker that they say was carrying Iranian oil, and all of this went down in the Indian Ocean, thousands of miles away from the Strait of Hormuz. First, let's go to NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons in Pakistan. Keir, the president is saying that he has all the time in the world to make a deal here. Now we're seeing this extension right after he threatened yesterday to maybe blow up power plants and bridges. But does it seem like there is some sort of breakthrough that's imminent here, or the exact opposite?
The exact opposite, Gadi. There isn't an imminent breakthrough, and that's why the president has had to extend the ceasefire. And we should say he's extended it indefinitely, not just the ceasefire, but also the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And effectively what's happening there is that the idea is to put pressure on the Iranians by putting pressure on their economy, not allowing them to take large amounts of oil. 1.5 million barrels of oil per day was one estimate during the war, not allowing them to export that and keep making money. But of course, effectively what you have is a kind of terrible race between which economy is going to be worse off, the Iranian economy or the world economy, because, of course, that now almost indefinite extension of the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz will impact oil prices. It will potentially impact inflation around the world. It's the kind of thing that economists have been warning about. Now, President Trump, as I say, will be hoping that in order that by effectively saying, OK, well, we have got all the time in the world, he is telling the Iranians that they better come to the table and negotiate, because what happened here in Islamabad today was the Iranians made clear they were not prepared to negotiate, quite simply. And President Trump had a choice, either to escalate, go back to war, or to do what he's done. And now we'll see. It's kind of like, your move, Tehran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so hard to keep track of whose move it is in this war. And yet we saw something happen out in the Indian Ocean today with that tanker. Was that part of, I don't know, keeping pressure on, or is that something that we're just going to see a lot more of these days?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely part of the pressure campaign that the U.S. Has been intercepting these shadow tankers, and this was the Tiffany, which is sanctioned. It's subject to Iranian sanctions by the U.S. So certainly it's part of it. I think the real question is whether or not it had an impact on the Iranians' thinking, and whether that sort of tipped the balance for them to say that they weren't going to come to the negotiating table here in Islamabad. Because, and then another piece of this that is worth remembering, there clearly is, and President Trump suggested this, today in his statement. And there is clearly a division in the Iranian regime between those who want to negotiate and those who want to keep fighting. And what you're seeing at times is one or the other side of those two kind of win out.
And I mean, this comes after that Iranian cargo ship was seized yesterday near the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. military, warning people to get out of the engine room, then opening fire. I mean, we just saw Iran's foreign minister, post on X that blockading Iranian ports is an act of war, thus a violation of the ceasefire. I believe that was before the ceasefire was then extended. But does it seem like Iran has any plans to retaliate here now that the ceasefire has been extended, or is everything once again put on hold?
Good question. I mean, they were threatening to retaliate, and even after President Trump announced the ceasefire, an advisor to the Iranian lead negotiator, Mohammad Ghalibaf, wrote on X that, in fact, he thinks that this delay is simply an attempt by the U.S. to buy time, ready for a new surprise attack. I mean, the mistrust between the two sides, but certainly on the part of the Iranians towards the U.S., is so deep that even an announcement by the president that he is extending this ceasefire is seen in cynical terms in Tehran. I think, look, in terms of accusing the U.S. of breaking the ceasefire by imposing a blockade, that's pretty cynical on the Iranian side, isn't it? Since they have been blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Both sides have been accusing each other of breaking the ceasefire. The question really now here in Pakistan is, are they going to get beyond these accusations and actually start to be able to do some deals?
Yeah, NBC's Keir Simmons in Pakistan. Keir, thank you. And the ceasefire between the United States and Iran is not the only one we're watching to see if it holds. NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian has the latest from Beirut on where the truce between Lebanon and Israel stands right now. Yasmin?
So if and when these talks take place in Islamabad, Pakistan, between Iran and the United States, Lebanon will certainly be a major sticking point. The president of the United States has said Lebanon and the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel is not a part of the ongoing ceasefire between Iran and the United States. However, Iran has said repeatedly that Lebanon certainly is a part of those talks and of that ceasefire. I've been spending the day all throughout Beirut here in Lebanon, speaking to people about what they want. If they want to be considered a part of these talks and these negotiations between both Iranian government officials and the Americans. Some people told me they do. They'll take all the help that they need, that both Iran has the power to help negotiate an end to this war because of the fact that Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran, and the United States has the power to stop Israel from their aggressions on Lebanon, while others say this is Lebanon's war to end, and they want it to end on Lebanon's terms, for Lebanon to negotiate an end to this war. Let's take a little bit of a listen to what they had to say, and then we'll talk on the other side. Iran has said Lebanon needs to be a part of the conversation.
We need peace in this country.
Yeah, we need to know that we can sleep and we can wake up the next day without hearing sounds, without having doubt in ourselves that something's gonna happen.
We should be split from what's happening in Islamabad. We should have the decision made here in Lebanon.
So while the world in Lebanon as well is looking towards Islamabad, Pakistan, as whether those talks are actually going to happen, they're also looking ahead to Thursday, because what comes out of those talks in Islamabad, if they happen, could help forecast what comes from Thursday, when both ambassadors from Israel and Lebanon will meet in Washington, D.C. to try and negotiate a potential end to the war here with Israel.
Yasmin, thank you. Let's break it all down with Aaron David Miller, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and one of my favorite people to talk to about the big picture here. Thank you so much for being with us. Coming back to Iran here and the ceasefire extension, so much of all of this, look, it's been happening in real time and at least has the appearance of being very on the fly. 1 hour, it's these threats of no more Mr. Nice Guy. Maybe he's going to target power plants and bridges. The next, there is this extension. You are a master negotiator. Can you walk us through the pros and the cons of the strategy that we see the president put into play time and time again here?
Gotti, really, what strategy? I mean, I worked and voted for Republicans and Democrats, Jimmy Carter to Bush 43. No president and mistakes have been made by both parties over the last 50 years, for sure. Look at the second Iraq War. But no administration has ever made policy this way. When messaging from the president, unpredictable, unaccountable, not checked out for the impact that it could possibly have, is essentially, it becomes the strategy. And like mice in a maze, the media and analysts, I'll put myself in the same box, are scurrying around trying to figure out exactly, is this three-dimensional chess? Is this some clever move by the president that we don't fundamentally understand? I think the answer to that, Gotti, is no. Iran humiliated and undermined one presidency by creating a hostage crisis, by taking the American embassy in 1979 and 1980. Now Iran is manipulating and undermining a second president by creating a hostage crisis. This hostage crisis has to do with geography. And the reality, shoot me if you want, but geography is destiny in this part of the world. And the Iranians have demonstrated, for as long as this regime remains in power, it can close the straits when it wants. And it is prepared to absorb, I think, the impact of the blockade that the Navy is enforcing. You want to continue the blockade, cut off Iran from its source of revenue, right? 90% of its imports are seaborne. It might work if you're prepared to hang around until what? November, December of 2026, 5 months of depriving the international community, the global oil market, from 20% of its daily take. I don't think there's a strategy here, Gotti. I think right now we're nowhere. There are no negotiations. There's the serious prospect of escalation. And for an impulsive president who wants a way out, there just doesn't appear to be one.
Just a little while ago, we heard Keir Simmons say, the ball appears to be in Tehran's court. And yet again, talking about the Strait of Hormuz, this all kind of started, at least this part of the negotiations and the impasse and the ceasefire started with Iran closing down the Strait of Hormuz. And it does seem like the United States is like, oh, okay, well, we're going to close down this Strait of Hormuz. Who is actually in control of the Strait of Hormuz? Who has the high ground there when it comes to that choke point?
Well, I think politically and economically, the Iranians. I mean, yes, we are depriving Iran of its access to hard currency. And over time, if you want to keep the blockade on 3, 4, 5 months, maybe you could actually see an impact, even for this hardline regime. But for now, it seems to me, whether it's our blockade or the closure of the straits, the international global economy is the loser here. There are no winners here. It's a test of manhood, right, between Tehran and the president. Who blinks first? But I have to tell you, there's not a shred of empirical evidence, Gotti, that suggests that the Iranian clock is somehow moving faster than the American clock. The president today says, we have a ceasefire. Only this morning, he was basically broadcasting that we could do extraordinary damage to Iran through our military power. So again, I think we're drifting. And I think the only way out of this is to figure out a way to diffuse what's happening in the straits, come to some terms where the blockade ends and the Iranians open up the straits in an effort to get back to a negotiation, which is going to be a combination of root canals and migraine headaches, Gotti. The issues are so complicated. And the American team is so not up to this that I worry.
Yeah, it is interesting to see the American team there, and yet things originating from Washington and spreading around the world at lightning speed. The constants in war have always been, geography, as you put it, time. And now we live in a day and age where social media has really added a whole complexity to this that I still think we're grappling with. Aaron David Miller, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so very much. And turning now to Cuba, where for the first time in a decade, It looks like American officials have met with the Cuban government on the island. Now, we don't know too much about these secret talks, including who took part, but what we do know, according to State Department officials, is that American diplomats flew there earlier this month, and one Cuban official said that the talks were done respectfully and professionally without any threats from the United States. So let's bring in NBC News political analyst Carlos Curbelo for more on this. Carlos, thanks so much for being with us. The backdrop of this one is obviously the war in Iran, what happened in Venezuela, Trump basically saying Cuba is next. Does it seem like there is some sort of confrontation that might be avoided here?
Well, Gadi, for those who don't want to see a confrontation, the fact that there was this delegation that visited Cuba, I mean, this is a lot of people compare Cuba to Venezuela. We did not have delegations visiting Venezuela in such a prominent way. In this case, State Department officials visited Cuba, sat down and met with Cuban leaders. Interestingly, probably the most important Cuban who was at that meeting was not the president of Cuba, not necessarily any official member of the government in Cuba, but Raul Rodriguez Castro, the grandson of Raul Castro, who has no formal role in the Cuban government, yet it really does appear as if he's the lead negotiator, which kind of gives us some clues as to who is actually in charge in Cuba, right? But yes, there's an ongoing dialogue. Some of the U.S. demands are going to be very difficult for the Cuban regime to meet, but they are talking.
Yeah, and not to be confused with the other grandson or one of the other grandsons that we spoke to last week. That was the grandson of Fidel Castro, who's an influencer. That's a whole interesting story there. But Carlos, you've been part of these delegations. You've been part of some of these backroom talks in your past back on Capitol Hill. What do you think U.S. officials told the Cubans?
Well, look. The United States officials were very adamant about political prisoners. They want to see political prisoners liberated. There are at least about 1,000 political prisoners in Cuba right now. The Cuban government in recent weeks released some prisoners, they said at the request of Pope Leo. However, those were common prisoners. Those weren't people who were in jail because they oppose the regime. There are at least 1,000 people who meet that definition, and American officials want those people freed. American officials also want American citizens and companies to be compensated. In the 1960s, the early 60s, when Fidel Castro came to power, he expropriated, stole a lot of property, companies, real estate from American citizens and corporations. They want those citizens and companies to be compensated for this theft. They also want to see Miguel Diaz-Canel out of power. That's going to be painful for Cubans, but maybe, since it is the Castro family that actually runs the country, maybe they do sacrifice Diaz-Canel. And then, of course, they want economic openings. That would be the easiest one for the Cuban regime to agree to, because they do need more economic activity on the island. The island is struggling, the worst economic crisis perhaps ever since the Castro Revolution won in 1959. So look for the Cubans to be anxious to say, yes, we will open up our economy. We will allow Americans to do business here.
Carlos Curbelo, thank you so much. And now to Mexico and this deadly shooting at the Teotihuacan pyramids yesterday. We are getting new details about the gunman from some tourists who saw the whole thing go down. A warning, the video we're about to show you is disturbing. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has the very latest.
Chilling new video appears to capture audio of a gunman on a deadly rampage on Mexico's Teotihuacan pyramids. In the video, terrified bystanders are seen clinging to the ground, trying to hide. Jacqueline Gutierrez filmed it.
The guy was yelling things. He was telling us that this was a place for sacrifices and it wasn't a place for you to come take your stupid little pictures. He seemed to be targeting tourists.
As the screen goes black, people are heard crying as gunshots ring out. A Canadian woman was killed and 13 others injured, officials say, including 6 Americans and a 6-year-old boy who was shot.
He's the one that you can hear crying in the video. And to me, that was the hardest part, because in Spanish, he was saying, please don't kill me.
What was it like laying there for those 14 minutes as this is happening around you?
Yeah, it felt like eternity.
Oh, they're shooting at him.
Authorities identified the shooter as 27-year-old Julio Cesar Hasso Ramirez and said the attack was premeditated. Ramirez carried literature and images, according to investigators, that appear to be related to the Columbine massacre.
He brought out a speaker and he put a song on it. It was really hard to tell exactly what it was, but I remember hearing a reference to Columbine.
Monday's rampage occurring on the anniversary of that deadly shooting. Mexico's president now ordering increased security in archaeological zones and at tourist attractions as the country prepares to welcome more than 5 million people for the World Cup. Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
Priscilla, thank you so much. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, schools in Los Angeles are cracking down on screen time, how a new policy could reshape how much time students are using tech in the classrooms. Plus, can AI be held responsible for helping someone commit a crime? Florida's Attorney General seems to think so with the new criminal probe into OpenAI. More on that later this hour, so stay tuned. All right, we got 90 seconds. 90 seconds. What's up, everybody? All right. This is a part where if you're just watching the show, the commercials come on the big TVs, and then we just get to chat in the meantime. So let me see if I can go back and see some of these comments. Sometimes I can read the comments during the show, and then sometimes I can't. If you see me doing this, it's because I'm reading what you guys are saying. If you look at me doing this over here, it's because I'm following along on the video that's playing on the show and watching our scripts and stuff. So let's see here. Interesting. Communism over imperialism? Sylvia. That's an interesting take. Let's see. Yep. Okay. And very interesting. Yes, Trish, it is, yeah, and in a different country, too. 30 seconds. Interesting. All right, we're coming up with some headlines. Oh, yeah, Tina's in-laws, if you guys are watching. What's up, everybody? Tina's OG in here. Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines that we are watching tonight. Florida Representative Sheila Scherflis McCormick has resigned this afternoon. Now, last month, the House Ethics Committee found that she might have used federal relief funds to support her 2022 election campaign, and the Justice Department indicted her on charges that she stole and laundered millions in FEMA money and used some of it to buy herself a 3-carat diamond ring. While her resignation ends the House probe, she still faces criminal charges. And Trump's pick for the new Federal Reserve Chair, Kevin Warsh, he had his Senate confirmation hearing today on Capitol Hill. And when it comes to questions over whether the Fed should be independent, Warsh said President Trump has not asked him for any specific interest rate decision and said that he would never agree to do that. Senator Tom Tillis is blocking his confirmation, though, until the DOJ drops their probe into the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, who is a Trump adversary. And police are looking for a woman in Maryland who opened fire at a gas station worker during an attempted robbery. That's her right there, they say, and the attendant is currently in stable condition. There's a $2,500 reward for any information that leads to her arrest. And in East Texas, an explosion at an oil well site caused a large fire late last night. Officials say that blast forced evacuations, and the flames could be seen for miles in a rural community. At this time, officials say no one was hurt. And in Chicago, 2 men stole over $100,000 worth of Pokemon cards and sports merch from a small business. The thieves smashed the window of a sports card and comic store before they snatched the most valuable items for sale, and that's those Pokemon cards. Cops are obviously hoping to catch them all, but so far, no arrests have been made. Meanwhile, Virginia is voting in a special election about the future of voting. With polls just closing within the last few hours, Virginia is now the latest battleground for a redistricting fight that President Trump kicked off when he pressured Texas to redraw their congressional maps last year. This proposed map would give Democrats a chance at winning 10 of Virginia's 11 congressional districts, a huge shift from the current 6-5 split in the House. Let's get straight over to NBC's Steve Kornacki at the big board with more. Steve, great to see you. We've got some votes coming in, but too close to call still? What's going on?
It is. Look, we got about 2/3 of the vote in statewide. You do see the no side on this referendum is leading, but I think one of the things to keep in mind here is this is the lead. It's a 39,000 vote lead for the no side. This number has been steadily ticking down now. Great timing, right, as it ticks back up over 40. But it was about 130,000 not long ago, about a half an hour ago. It has ticked down. And why is that? It's because there are some big population centers in the state that are sort of late reporting and that are starting to come in. One of the biggest ones is right here. This is Fairfax County. This is right outside Washington, D.C. And you can see the most important thing here is only 29% of the vote is in Fairfax County. Fairfax County produces more votes by far than any other county in Virginia. So there is a ton of votes still to come here in Fairfax County. You can see how overwhelming it is for the yes side. So, there's a couple other places here that aren't quite as big, but that are also good size and that are very heavily pro-yes right now. So there's, and look at that, Gotti. Just since I've been there, we gotta go find out where it came in from. Remember, this was 40,000 when you went to me. Now the margin has come down to 20,000. Henrico County. Okay, my producer Adam says, look at this one. This is a big Democratic area just north of Richmond. And Henrico County just came in with a big number for the yes side. And look at what that did. So this is what's happening right now, Gotti. The yes side is starting to get the vote reports that are they come in later in the night from the big Democratic-friendly areas, and they are just lopping off one update at a time. They are lopping off that margin from no. It has come all the way down to 21,000, and there's still quite a few areas left that can do what you just saw with that one update from Henrico County. So this is a very close, very competitive election. But I think if you are on the yes side here, that's basically the Democrats in Virginia, you like, when you're looking at this map, you like what it looks like in terms of how much vote is still to come from Democratic areas.
Interesting. I mean, one that is changing by the second there. Steve Kornacki, thanks so much for that update.
You got it.
Meanwhile, some breaking news from Los Angeles is Los Angeles has now become the first major school district to limit how much time students can spend on screens. Now, the idea here is to push students back to pen and paper. And this new policy would ban devices entirely for first graders, for kindergartners, for younger, and restrict phone and tablet use for older kids. There was a 2024 Lightspeed System study that showed students between kindergarten and 12th grade average about 98 minutes per day on school-issued devices in the classroom. LA Unified School District says a full policy is due in June and expected to go into effect next school year. Let's bring in Liz Kreutz, who's been following all of this. So Liz, so much of this was driven by parents, right? How did it go down?
Yeah, so first of all, just when we saw that vote, it was passed with 6-0. One school board member abstained, but it is overwhelmingly supported within the school district. There was applause when it passed, and this is all an effort, a grassroots efforts from parents here in LA who were upset when they would go into the classroom with their children. I talked to one mom who said that in her son's first grade class, they have daily designated iPad time where the kids just like any other time, they then go and they put their headsets on and they just sit next to each other. They don't talk to each other and they just play these sort of digital learning games without any oversight. And parents said, we don't want that. We don't want our kids to be going to school and being on their screens. So they started this group, Schools Beyond Screens, which advocated for this and made this change.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've got a Kira, she's 4, she's in TK at LAUSD, and a couple of times I've asked her, like, hey, where did you learn that? And she's like, oh, the screen. And I'm like, wait, what? Right. And her teacher is amazing, but it does seem like this is something that is used a lot. You know, some would argue that sometimes it's used for educational reasons, right? Or maybe just a demonstration for students. Does that count, that big board, that big screen that they have there? Is that included in this? Or is that kind of like the microfilm, the projector of old that we were used to?
Yeah, my understanding is most of this is targeted about that one-to-one. You know, during COVID, it was a big push, understandably, a lifeline to get every kid a tablet or a Chromebook because they were learning from home. And so a lot of this is sort of parents saying, okay, we went a little too far, let's bring it back. They're not anti-tech. There's still part of this, this new policy is gonna ban YouTube for student access to YouTube. Teachers can still use YouTube for educational purposes. They can still bring up a video. They just don't want kids on their own school-issued device to be going down the rabbit hole of the algorithms of YouTube. So it's really about that one-on-one, but the teachers interacting and engaging, using different screens, that's more okay.
One of the other things that it seems to center around is this change that happens in second grade, right? So it's TK all the way to second grade, and then second grade and beyond. Obviously, they're still working out the details, but that mirrors a conversation that's been happening around the country, right?
Yeah, so we're seeing this Schools Beyond Screens movement take off across the country. The moms here in LA were telling me that they're hearing from other parents across the country that are starting chapters. But LA Unified is not the first school district to do this. It is the first major district to do this. And of course, LA Unified is the second largest school district in the country. So it certainly could have a ripple effect. But there have been smaller ones, one in Bend, Oregon. And we've also seen states at the legislative level enact similar policies in Alabama, Utah, and Virginia, Gotti.
Yeah, interesting times. Liz Troitz, thank you so very much. And coming up, the ex-wife of the Gilgo Beach serial killer is speaking out for the first time in a new documentary, and what she says about her ex-husband's crimes is astonishing. That's coming up next. Dude, yeah, kindergartner, yeah, and they, like, Kira is saying that they come in with computers, so she has a computer day, and again, like, where'd you learn that? Where'd you learn it? Like, oh, this screen, and then Kimmy and I, like, we're like, what is going on? And then she's like, wait, am I in trouble? I'm like, no, everything's fine, but yeah, it's...
You know, and the parents were telling me that, like, the teachers don't, it's proprietary, so the teachers don't even really know what the kids are doing, how they're doing on it.
That's so weird. Yeah, okay, to be continued.
I knew that, I was like, I want to discuss
To
this
be
with you.
continued.
You're very engaged on this topic.
Yeah, come volunteer at our class, they would love it. Okay, what's up, guys? What did I miss? SML, oh, thanks so much for your harm. Went, interesting. Not sure. Fairfax County, Virginia, also. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, it might be a ripple effect. Sometimes it is. What games do they play? Akira is not allowed to play anything yet. And I don't know if she's playing at school. I think they're just using it for like instructional videos and stuff. Oh, and this story time by the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, which she always says, which is weird. Oregon Trail, that was such a good game at school. I loved that. I was always a banker from Boston, and then I would get dysentery like 5 seconds in. Let's see, what else? What did he say? Interesting. All right, hold on. They took us to the playground? Yeah, that's right. 20. Pasó con queso. They took us to the playground too. And there was this big, huge like play structure called the Titanic, and everyone was always falling and breaking their arms from it out in Sierra Vista in New Mexico, Paradise Hills. Those are the days.
5, 4.
All right, here we go. Hey, welcome back. The Epstein saga continues here in the United States, but also over in the UK now as well. For months, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been facing backlash over appointing Peter Mandelson as U.S. ambassador despite his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And today, a senior civil servant testified that there was constant pressure to get Mandelson top security clearance and that Starmer's office was dismissive about his security vetting. NBC's Raf Sanchez has more.
With local elections in the UK just weeks away, Prime Minister Keir Starmer facing new fallout over his disastrous decision to appoint a friend of Jeffrey Epstein as the British ambassador to Washington. Tonight, a top civil servant fired for his role in the appointment process, telling his side of the story.
The very short answer is I don't fully understand the reasons that I'm in the position I am in.
Starmer appointed Lord Peter Mandelson, seen here in the Oval Office, to be Britain's envoy to the U.S. But Mandelson was forced out last year after the extent of his friendship with the convicted sex offender was revealed in the Epstein files. And later, he was arrested in the UK on suspicion of sending Epstein sensitive government documents. Though he has not been charged, denies wrongdoing, and says he didn't know about Epstein's criminal activities. Now, it's emerged that Mandelson failed his security vetting, but was still allowed to take up the sensitive diplomatic post.
Tell the House.
For nearly 2.5 hours yesterday, Starmer was grilled about that in Parliament, saying he didn't know about Mandelson's vetting status until last week.
Many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
I'm good, and thank you. Yes, and I see that.
To that, I can only say they are right.
Starmer fired the top civil servant at the Foreign Office, Sir Ollie Robbins, who he says should have told him. But today, Robbins getting his turn to speak in front of a parliamentary committee, saying he didn't inform Starmer because of the sensitivity of the vetting process, but adding Starmer's aides were dismissive about the security vetting and wanted to rush through Mandelson's appointment in time for President Trump's second inauguration.
The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. Despite this atmosphere, an atmosphere of pressure, the department completed developed vetting to the normal high standard.
The Prime Minister's office denies Robbins' allegation it was dismissive, while President Trump weighing in on Truth Social overnight, saying Mandelson was a really bad pick, the latest in a series of jabs he's made at Starmer, who angered the president by not joining U.S. strikes on Iran.
This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
The crisis eroding Starmer's support even among lawmakers in his own party, who could force him from office next month if local election results are as bad as polls suggest. Another potential aftershock of the Epstein Files earthquake, rippling across the Atlantic.
Raph, thank you. And a horrible tragedy happened here in Burbank. A mom and her daughter stabbed, and the man who they say did it has now been arrested. Arti Varma, a beloved elementary school teacher, and her 25-year-old daughter, Mira, a well-known mental health activist, were both stabbed inside of a home in Southern California yesterday. Arti died at the hospital after the attack, while her daughter survived and is still recovering. There's some surveillance video that shows Burbank's SWAT team arresting the suspect late last night. NBC's Steve Patterson is here with more on this. Steve, it does seem so senseless. Yeah. Do we know, does this suspect know the victims? Was there a motive here?
We don't know at this point. Yeah, that is obviously something that police are heavily looking into as part of the investigation. Police released a statement not too long ago saying, quote, the relationship, if any, between the suspect and the victims remains under investigation, as does the motive. So they're still obviously looking into this. This happened at yesterday morning, 6 a.m. Police say they arrived to the scene, this double stabbing. They tried to obviously resuscitate RT. They brought both of them to the hospital. She died there. It is 16 hours later before the SWAT team moves into a residence about 2 miles away or so, about 5 minutes or so. I lived in Burbank for a while, so I kind of know that area. Obviously very peaceful, very quiet, not used to anything like this. In that time, they said they canvassed the area. They brought home evidence. They have surveillance video. They also have witnesses and residents who gave interviews. So they are obviously gathering this, and of course, all part of the investigation moving forward.
And RT, she was a loved educator, right? A teacher, the center of a community here.
More than a decade at Burbank Unified, sort of local school in the area. She was a first grade teacher, very young students. Obviously, the students there going through it. They released a statement not too long ago talking about her legacy, saying she was really nice, that she was sort of part of the fabric of the community, known not only for her dedication to teaching, but for the care, warmth, passion that she brought to her work every day. Her loss is felt profoundly across the district. We also interviewed some people who knew her, specifically the brother of one of her students, who mentioned just sort of how warm she was. Listen to this.
She was just really nice. I mean, she always treated everyone with respect. It seemed like all her students loved her. My brother had her as a teacher, and he loved her as a teacher. I think it's just going to be hard on everyone.
Really sad. A reporter here in our bureau, Irene, spoke to the father of Mira, the husband of Arti. He was away in India during the time of the stabbing. On his way back to Burbank now, says he's heartbroken and that Mira is clinging to life at this point.
Yeah, we're praying for their family. Steve Patterson, thank you so much. And the ex-wife of Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann speaking out as part of the Peacock documentary series, The Gilgo Beach Killer House of Secrets. Asa Ellerup opened up about Heuermann's grisly confession. Here's a little bit of it.
Said he killed 8 women.
8.
8.
Who was the 8th? Because he's charged with 7.
I didn't ask.
Emily Akeda has more on what Ellerup had to say. Hey, Emily.
Yeah, hey there, Gotti. Just going back a little bit, since Rex Heuermann's arrest a couple of years ago, Asa Ellerup, his longtime wife, has really expressed a lot of skepticism and disbelief around whether her husband, the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer, could have actually committed these murders. In fact, in some of the previous episodes in the Peacock series, she said, "I don't believe my husband did this," and said that the fact that her hair was found on victims was merely circumstantial. So this upcoming episode really marks a sobering and strong contrast and shift in her impression of Rex Heuermann. She's even recalling what he told her in terms of where he committed the murders. Take a listen here.
He looked very nervous, very, very nervous. And I said to him, "So, Mr. Heuermann, I understand that you are confessing to me on these murders." He said I wasn't home during all of them.
Were any of them killed in the house?
He said yes, they were killed in his room downstairs. All except one.
So in this final episode on Peacock, we're also expecting to hear phone calls with Rex Heuermann from jail, an interview with the family's psychotherapist, and then also an interview with an FBI profile, the pioneer behind the FBI's behavioral analysis unit, which, remember, is actually part of Rex Heuermann's plea deal. He has agreed to cooperate with the FBI in their behavioral analysis unit, so really getting into the mind of a serial killer. His attorney says that we could hear from Heuermann himself at his sentencing, which is expected to happen in June. Gotti.
Emily, thank you. And coming up in the future of everything, a different kind of space race, a look at Amazon's multi-billion-dollar deal that they say is going to help them launch more satellites into Earth's lower orbit.
All right, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. All right. Man, that Gilgo Beach stuff is so disturbing. Hi. These are the top of the show. You know how I was injured. It's not a cool story. Leg injury, debilitating. Not really. I've got some scooter that I'm scooting around on to everybody's chagrin here. Let's see. No blazer today. Pachanga. No. We're in ceasefire territory. No blazer. If I could do the show with no blazer forever, that would be ideal. But sometimes you just gotta dress up a little bit, you know. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. We love to do these behind the scenes chats. And if you're new to following this show, the best way to do it is just queue up a question and then wait till you hear us starting in on the, coming up, we're going to be talking about this, and then blast your question in the chat on whatever segment we've covered, and then I'll try to tackle it because it's a little bit easier to see those comments right before the commercial break than during the show when they're happening. It's hard to keep track of everything, but sometimes I can. Random question: where's the best bean and cheese burrito? Oh, I don't know. I usually get carne asada burritos. Good question. Thanks. Text me. It's CableNet, and somebody was like, "You can't wear that after spring," and I was like, "It's cold in LA, so I'm wearing it." Pupusas, yes. Tacos, yes, but not as good as Guatemalan tamales. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. I think we're going to be talking about all of that stuff. Yeah, those Starlink, especially when they're chained together, it's pretty wild. It is so good. So good. All right, here we come.
5, 4, 3 to animation.
And tonight, in the future of everything, there's this new probe into OpenAI that is raising questions about whether or not AI can be criminally responsible for helping plan a mass shooting. Now, Florida's Attorney General today said the state's investigating OpenAI over messages between ChatGPT and the suspect accused of killing 2 people at Florida State University last year, and then said something that is really worth stopping and thinking about. Listen.
The chatbot advised the shooter on what type of gun to use, on which ammo went with which gun. My prosecutors have looked at this, and they've told me if it was a person on the other end of that screen, we would be charging them with murder.
Now, the family of one of the shooting victims also says they are preparing to file charges against OpenAI. In a statement, OpenAI says ChatGPT is not responsible for this terrible crime, adding ChatGPT provided factual responses to questions with information that could be found broadly across public sources on the internet, and it did not encourage or promote illegal or harmful activity. Now let's bring in NBC legal analyst Misty Maris. Misty, we've seen criminal investigations look at a shooter's Google search, but with AI, there's a question of AI possibly playing a role itself, right? What are the legal implications here?
Well, Gotti, so because so many people are turning to AI for advice, what we've seen across the country in different courts, that those searches can actually be used against a criminal defendant. But here we're talking about an investigation on the civil and the criminal side by the Attorney General, by the state of Florida, to see if there are criminal implications to the AI company itself for a role that it may have played as an aider and abetter of the criminal conduct. So this is a very, very unique and really trailblazer legal theory when it comes to what the AG is trying to do here.
And when you heard the AG say, look, if my prosecutors looked at this and if this was a person that they saw on the other end, that person would be charged. And, you know, I know we're not there yet, but the other thing about AI versus a Google search, there is a potential future in which you could, I don't know if you could put it on the stand, but you could ask an AI chatbot questions in court, right? Or prosecutors could use that to potentially illustrate hallucinations or illustrate the persuasive elements. Do you see something like that down the road happening?
Well, I think what we're going to see is a lot of these civil cases play out. You're going to see demonstrations explaining to the jury why certain information was coming to these individuals. For instance, if somebody is in distress, if they're looking to hurt themselves or others, what's happening with the AI product that is leading to, you know, these horrific results? For instance, what policies, what procedures are in place to stop that from happening if there is a turn in what is being communicated to AI? What is it responding? So all of that would be a part of the expert testimony that we'll likely see if and when we get these cases get to trial. But what I will say, Gotti, is, you know, an organization, a corporation can be a criminal defendant and treated like an individual. But here what I think is very interesting is that the AG went a step further and said, we're asking for information about the people that are in charge, the people that put safety protocols in place internally at OpenAI and ChatGPT, and looking at the potential for criminal culpability to those individuals. So that is a very unique legal theory. And the AG said, we understand that this is something new, but we're looking to explore this as potential criminal conduct in that space.
Well, the discovery in this is going to be just mind-blowing, I think. I do want to ask, you know, these AI companies, when they're building these things and when they're seeing issues pop up, they're kind of put into this position of, okay, well, we either put up the guardrails or we kind of like, I don't know, maybe we don't want to see that because if we do something, then something goes wrong and we see liability. Do you think that... You'd think that they would have if they have a huge data set that's so incredibly large that it gives us chatbots out of this, you know, large language model, you'd think that they would also have data sets on their customers, and you'd also be able to flag, oh, this person is homicidal, this person is suicidal, and that would be accessible by law enforcement or internally. Does it seem like that is the case? Because the tech obviously seems to be at least there for the chatbots that we use.
Yeah, so it looks like that's what these investigations are going to explore. And Gotti, you and I have spoken about other cases that have been filed across the country on that civil side. This particular investigation in Florida is something that's a bit different because not only are you looking at potential investigation into civil liability, you also have that idea of criminal conduct. So everything you just said, the protocols in place, safety features, why the algorithm is spitting out certain things, that's all going to be at play.
Yeah, Misty Maris, this case is one to watch. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And we've got some breaking news in that Virginia redistricting election we've been watching so closely. NBC's News Decision Desk has just projected that Virginia voters have opted to install a new, heavily blue-leaning congressional map. Let's get straight over to NBC's Steve Kornacki at the big board to break down how it went. Steve, what does it look like there? I mean, last time we checked with you, those numbers were jumping, and it looks like we've settled.
Yeah, well, guys, no, I think you saw the sort of the big moment there when the big Democratic area of the state, Fairfax County, just outside Washington, D.C., it was the last to really report out its vote. It started to come in. It's overwhelmingly pro-referendum, supporting the map redraw. And as that vote just kind of steadily came in the last 20 minutes, the whole picture changed here. The yes side took the lead statewide. I suspect this margin is going to grow somewhat as more vote finally trickles in and we get a final result here. It will be a relatively narrow victory for the yes side. You could certainly say here that the Republicans that exist in Virginia, the Republicans were very motivated. They turned out for this. They came very close to defeating this. But, you know, look, ultimately, Virginia, it is still a blue state. The Democrats have a bit of an advantage in any given election over a Republican. And the Democrats got the big numbers they needed in those core Democratic areas tonight to push this thing over to finish line. And the consequences of this in terms of the midterm landscape here are pretty significant, Gotti. I mean, just think of it this way. The House is very close right now. The Republicans control the House, but their majority is razor thin. The Democrats need a net gain in this fall's midterm elections. The Democrats need a net gain of 3 seats to get control of the House. Now, think about this. The current map in Virginia heading into tonight, congressional map, was 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, right? Now that it's passed, this Democratic map has passed, the new map is likely to be 10 Democrats and just 1 Republican, right? So from 6 to 5 to 10 to 1, that's a net gain for the Democrats just in Virginia from what happened tonight of 4 seats. To win control of the House, they need a net gain of 3. They might have drawn that for themselves tonight and got it approved by the voters.
Yeah. And we'll see what plays out as this goes forward, because there's still a lot of time before then and now, and a lot of fights in so many different directions. But interesting to see those numbers coming out of Virginia tonight. Steve, thank you so very much. And turning now to space. There are space races between countries, and right now there are space races between companies. And when it comes to Amazon and SpaceX, there's how the world connects to the internet in the future, right? And it's all going to come down to who can control the higher ground or higher orbit first. And SpaceX right now is already doing that with Starlink. But Amazon is making a big move. It's building a rival network called LEO. It just bought Globalstar, one of the few existing competitors to Musk's growing constellation. But is all this going to follow the same rules we have here on Earth when it comes to who controls airwaves? That's where things get very, very complicated. Here to chat with us about it is Alan Boyle, contributing editor over at GeekWire. Alan, great to see you. Thanks so much. Let's start with this deal here, a massive one, and yet so is SpaceX's head start, right? Where does this put those two companies? Are they closer to neck and neck right now, or is SpaceX still pretty far ahead?
Well, long term, it shifts the equation, and it's as much about Apple as it is about Globalstar. When Amazon acquired Globalstar, they're actually acquiring a relationship with Apple as well, and it's all about who gets access to those iPhones, to the Apple Watches, to all these devices that we wear. This is the coming trend in internet access, is direct to device, where the satellites connect directly with your cell phone, and you'll be able to get all your services through your what used to be known as a cell phone connection.
That is always, I mean, for so long, that's been the holy grail for all tech, right? And yet the sat connectivity, SOS messages, those little, tiny little packets of information, that's one thing. And like people just streaming YouTube and then just bringing down gigs and gigs and gigs of data, that's a whole other thing. Does it seem like sat connectivity for high bandwidth is ready for the masses in the next 5 to 10 years?
Gotti, you've hit the nail on the head that right now the services that you can get from satellite are very limited bandwidth. And that's what SpaceX and Amazon are racing to do, is to get high bandwidth satellites in orbit so that you don't just send an SOS text. You can watch a movie over a satellite connection. And that's where Globalstar comes in. They already have some satellites that are providing limited services. And when Amazon brings in its Amazon LEO satellites, that's really going to change the game.
I love the way you frame all this. You know, it really has to do with relationships, and yet at the same time, it really also has to do with massive amounts of thrusts and rockets and like this launch cadence that I don't think people really can wrap their head around. But how many rockets are we going to be seeing launching every week to get these constellations built to the point where that type of bandwidth can be provided?
That's where SpaceX still has a huge edge. They launch about 10 Starlink launches per month, and each launch has close to 30 satellites on it. Amazon is way far behind. They're planning their 10th launch in the past year. They just started doing this almost exactly a year ago, and they've just have 10 launches. And so SpaceX is going 12 times as fast as Amazon, basically. And Amazon, if they're going to match SpaceX's pace, they've really got to pick up the pace. And they just had another one of Jeff Bezos's companies, Blue Origin, had a setback, and that is going to set back Amazon as well. So it's an issue, that's for sure.
And finally, one other question. You know, trying to compare this to the way that the infrastructure runs right now on Earth is kind of hard. You've got them kind of racing to be a cell phone tower company on one hand, but also the antenna company, but also the delivery company, but also potentially the provider, because they do have portals to access their internet. Is there anything like that on Earth right now?
Well, actually, it's more complex. And so you do have partnerships. Apple and Globalstar are partners. And then you've got Amazon coming in, and Amazon has a partnership with Verizon. On the other hand, SpaceX has a partnership with T-Mobile. So you're going to see a lot of complications going on as the months and years go by.
Yeah, and we'll see what the regulatory framework looks like for all of this. Alan Boyle, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for visiting. And these days, we've gotten used to scanning stuff to see what's inside, right? Our bags at the airport, our bodies with MRI machines, but now dealerships can even scan our cars to help determine trade-in value and maybe even get you a few extra bucks. We got a first-hand look. Check this out.
If you've had to buy or sell a car, you probably know the stress. Sure, a car might look a certain way, but what about the problems you can't see? Well, now some car dealers can look under the hood without lifting a finger.
As soon as the vehicle passes the Viper pillars, the magic happens.
This is Viper, or Vehicle Inspection Platform for Enhanced Reporting.
The sensors get activated, and we start to read thousands of data points of the car as it passes.
The car drives through, and in just a few seconds, the Viper eyes see everything from oil leaks to the depth of tire treads.
Every single aspect of the car gets measured. The body, we look at dents, damages, scratches, all of these data points.
This is the BMW you just saw.
Got it.
So you have all the exterior photos, but then this is the virtual lift, the underbody.
Wait, what?
So this gives you a full high-resolution stitched image of the underbody. So you can see, is there a leak in the oil pan? Is there a crack in the catalytic converter? Is it missing a catalytic converter?
Right.
Is there a muffler problem? All these pieces are a point and click away.
Wow. Mechanics are going to see this, and they're going to be like, oh, there goes our jobs. What's your response to them?
It's actually quite different. This just makes your job a lot easier. It takes the variability, and often service bays can do a lot more in the same amount of time with tools like this.
Viper is still in pilot mode, but it's now being used at about 14 dealerships around the U.S. They use it for general repairs, but also to determine the cost of trade-ins. Their goal is transparent data for both sides of the sale.
We think this becomes ubiquitous. We think this is the way cars are going to be bought and sold. There's going to be transparent, technology-enabled devices capturing every part of a vehicle's condition.
And on a trade-in, a car's condition is a major question for dealerships. There's a lot to consider, and they're trying to do it while also trying to sell you a different car.
They don't want to have a vehicle brought in for trade, say that they think it's worth $10,000 and then find out it's really only worth $9,000 or $8,500. So to avoid that, I think they tend to lowball consumers on what they'll value their car at.
Carl Brower is the executive analyst at iSeeCars.com.
If dealers can get confident in an AI vehicle analysis, they might start out at a higher rate that they're willing to give the consumer because they feel it's less likely that they're going to miss something.
Dennis Gingrich has been selling used cars for a long time, and he says Viper makes the car buying haggle less of a haggle.
Seeing is believing, because if I tell you A, B, and C is wrong, if I can show you that, specifically in a retail transaction, you know, that's just going to lower that potential friction point. So, you know, you should have a better experience.
Whatever the experience, more AI and less of a mystery.
Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. Great edit, PJ. That was awesome. That looks really, really good.
Great show.
Great show, everybody. Awesome. Okay. All right. Chat. Great show. Great show. Lot to process, as always. And I hope you guys are able to process the news with some grass. Not that kind of grass, but, you know, grass that you can ground yourself in. Go outside. See